last item of 5 out. We're going to try to keep this as brief as possible. But Knicks owner James Dolan is big mad. He wrote a letter to the NBA's Board of Governors that he is not pleased that big market teams like the New York Knicks are continuing to have to share all the revenue with all the small teams at the big boy table. This was particularly the most interesting part about this was the RSN stuff.
Yes.
Being that, Golden State is going to be, to my knowledge, in a similar predicament, let's say, where they have less games available for their local affiliate, NBC Sports Bay Area, or Comcast, whatever the exact, I forget who the overlords are, all these companies are now, and more on national TV. Like the big teams, the Lakers, the Warriors, the Knicks get these massive local deals, which is such a contrast to, like, I think for an NBA perfect world, I think for like you and I perfect world and fans at home perfect world, with the influx of Amazon and whatever, like there would be an app or there'd be Amazon Prime or Apple TV where all the games are on it and you wouldn't need these guys anymore. But long-standing history of all that type of stuff, especially when you're a team like the Knicks who can generate, I don't know the exact numbers, but those teams can make well over $10 million a year annually in their broadcast rights, where certain smaller teams are only at like a couple million. Same thing with the jersey patch sponsors. So yeah, it's always just funny that like the Board of Governors is such a like clandestine thing. And it's just funny when an angry detail bubbles to the surface and gets obtained, leaked to certain people.
I think you're right. I mean, there's the interesting component too, where James Dolan is just mad that the league is going to take home a bigger slice of the revenues, like whatever it was. It's going from like 0.5% of something to 8% of it. And like, why is the league office taking home more of this money? But you're right. I mean, the big thing, obviously, James Dolan, as you mentioned, like MSG Networks is under the Knicks umbrella as a team that owns its own network. That's you're taking money out of my pocket by trying to move to a more centralized model. I think the interesting thing to this, to me in this, and I'm the furthest thing from an expert on, the broadcast model and how this all works. But a lot of this is stuff that was coming up last year, in the last year and a half, 2 years in Major League Baseball, right? And our former colleague Hannah Kaiser had written about this a couple of years ago, a couple times last year, about the bankruptcy of Diamond Sports Group, the Bally Sports Networks, all the local teams that had their local, or all the MLB teams that had their local deals with them, and Major League Baseball being like, well, our goal is to make it so that we are centralizing all this. And there was a quote that she had in one of those pieces from Rob Manfred, the commissioner of Major League Baseball, before, I think it was before last season, spring training before last season, quote, "A more national product produces more centrally shared revenue, which reduces revenue disparity, which in turn we hope would reduce payroll disparities." And that's, I think, what James Dolan,
socialist pro sports leagues.
I know, imagine that. But I think it's also James Dolan. If you're James Dolan, you're saying, why do I care about payroll disparity? Like, I want to have the opportunity to make more money with my local deal, and also spend more if I want to spend more to win. Now that runs contra to the new CBA environment that's cracking down on Steve Ballmer and is cracking down on the Warriors and whatever else. But I think what we're seeing is it's a disruption of the way that business has been done over the course of years. It's that hit one sport in a major way first. It's hitting this one now more. We're seeing more teams go to like free over the air TV. Like I think the Suns did it. The Bucks have done some of it. The Jazz, there's more teams, especially the ones that had those Bally deals. This stuff is not going away. And so James Dolan, smacking the table and saying, you are taking money out of the pockets of those of us whose model does work and has worked, I think this might be the start of something as opposed to the end of something.
Yeah, which is really interesting because Adam Silver at his press conference post Board of Governors meeting on Tuesday in Las Vegas, he gets inevitably asked about the concept of expansion. And while he did say, of course, that the league is going to continue to consider that and blah, 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 this was the first time I've heard him in the last little stretch talk about, he put some type of doubt and some type of shadow on the concept because of this. He said, when you bring in new partners, you're diluting those payments, of course, to teams. Sometimes it seems as if we're printing money when we expand. Actually, it's no different than selling equity in any business. And that to me, end quote, that to me was something I've never heard him suggest before. I still think that they are going to be looking at expansion very seriously. I think the talent level, because that's something he mentioned further, like you don't want to dilute the talent either. Like we've got so many good teams. I don't think that's going to be an issue, especially as we have a potentially loaded draft class coming around the corner as well. But yeah, maybe there won't be, if these top tier owners right now are already, shaking their fists at losing a couple shekels. Like I can only imagine how much that will hurt the wallets when you're turning a 30 team pie into a 32 team pie and everyone gets less of this new $74 billion deal that they just negotiated. So that I thought was pretty noteworthy that he showed some type of reticence to that, where in the past he kind of was like, this has kind of been like an open secret. There are people in the league who are like moving to Las Vegas because it's centrally located for a number of things, but also like, hey, it might not be bad if I'm already in the market of where the new team might be. Yeah. So